Hello, and welcome to another episode of Telling Everybody Everything. My voice is slowly coming back. Thank you for all the voice recommendations, but it turned out I just was sick and I'm recovering more slowly than I did when I was young. So I'm dying. That process has accelerated over 40 and I'm really excited about it. Okay, I thought that I would start where we left off a couple of weeks ago with my pill queries. I've been able to collect enough emails now from listeners who have their own experience with overprescription of the contraceptive pill, and I'm going to start with this one. Katherine, I listened to your episode about prescribing the pill for teens with period troubles, and I recognize so much of what you said in what happened with my daughter. She's 28 and now living in Alberta, but back then, when she was 14, 15, her periods were so troublesome she would vomit and pass out every month, often missing school because of it. Her doctor suggested the pill, and it didn't occur to me to question it. That's what we did. Agree with me or disagree with me? I'm going away from the letter now. I think so many of us, when it comes to medical advice, we are told, especially now white women over 40, we're told to trust the police, trust teachers, trust doctors, trust all these figures of authority who have sometimes intimate relationships with us. And this is how people get abused by their gymnastics coach. This is how people develop drug dependency issues with the whole OxyContin thing in America, because you trust your doctor. You go, well, my doctor said that OxyContin's not addictive and I need it for my back pain working in the mines. And then 2 years later, you've lost your family and you're knocking on death's door. So the pill is not as serious, but I even feel really badly questioning a doctor because I know that it could be very humbling. Like, oh, I'm not as smart as a doctor. I don't know as much. But like, here we are. I think this is why you have to question it. All right, so what happened to this 14, 15-year-old? It made her period more regular and manageable. Job done. Fast forward 3 years, and while she was at uni, she developed the most distressing depression. She was prescribed citalopram, which, once again, the doctor was treating just what was in front of them. At no time did anyone look at the whole picture to see if there's anything else that could be tweaked. Eventually, about 22 years old, her instinct told her to come off everything. She felt as though all of her natural functions were suppressed, which of course they were. She was lethargic. She had no libido. She was unable, libido. She had no feeling of joy, anger, or passion. So once she came off all these drugs, she found her passion in nature, and she loves to live surrounded by the Canadian mountains and lakes. Her periods are still a little troublesome, and she has some anxiety, but she gets to feel all her feelings, and a walk out in nature is great therapy. All right, so I'm not saying that a walk out in nature is going to cure all the things that are wrong with all of us, but this Danish study especially really worried me, being like, oh, it can cause depression. It can alter bone density. Like, your hormones are everything that you are. And TikTok knows that I have said on television that I would like to have a fourth baby. TikTok learns your algorithm fast and just starts showing you stuff. Somehow I'm on miscarriage TikTok, which I don't appreciate. I'm sure you can silence certain things, but Jesus, it is wonderful that people are talking more and more about pregnancy loss and infant loss and child loss, because for so many years all of these things were silent. But anyway, women are also talking a lot more about health in general and about their symptoms. And there was this woman having IVF who made a TikTok about, you might know the trend, well, maybe you don't, maybe this is very niche to me, where women are starting with the letter F and they're like, fuck y'all. It's like a viral song with fuck y'all, and they're just holding the F a long time. So she was talking about the progesterone supplements that she has to take in her IVF pregnancy, because of course, if you don't get pregnant by ovulating naturally on your own, then there's no corpus luteum, which is the thing that makes progesterone to sustain your natural pregnancy. So if you have an IVF pregnancy, you have to take progesterone. Fine. And this woman was like, it's turned me into a monster. And loads of women underneath were saying, oh, really? It's really relaxed me. It's made me happy. It's made me sleepy. Everyone has different reactions to hormones, synthetic hormones, but these are hormones. Maybe no one would have spoken about that before. I sleep all day because of progesterone. I want to kill my husband because of progesterone. I feel drunk because of progesterone. I no longer drive a car because of progesterone. All right. Well, your natural hormones make up so much of your personality. We know that. And I don't believe that stopping a 15-year-old ovulating entirely should be the first point of call. Maybe you get there, because they shouldn't be passing out and puking and missing school. Of course not. So maybe you get there, but not like first thing without even an appointment. Okay, here's another one about the pill. I had to write after hearing about your family members' painful periods. And I do like that listeners are observing the same discretion. Like, everybody knows who I'm talking about, but I'm not saying them. And I like that people are taking her one step away from this conversation and making this an anonymous chat about a female family member. I have always had very painful periods, and I managed them with hormonal contraception until an abnormal smear test in my 20s made me decide I didn't want any more unnatural hormones in my body. When I came off them, my periods were still painful but manageable with painkillers, hot baths, hot water bottle, etc. until I had my second child. After a traumatic delivery resulting in an emergency C-section and having a copper coil fitted shortly thereafter, my uterus had been through a lot. When my period returned, it was excruciating. I would be balled on the floor, unable to move, and painkillers made hardly any difference. I didn't want to go back to hormones, and I didn't think taking strong painkillers while looking after a newborn and toddler was a good idea, so I did start researching other options. Oh, girl. Oh, honey. This is when I found CBD oil. Are you just getting high with your kids? No, I think CBD oil has the THC removed, which is why it's legal in the UK. I found CBD oil and its use for period pain. Not wanting to seem like a stoner, I found a women-led company that made CBD oil, and I specifically took this. I took it every day for the 2 weeks before my period, and my pain was significantly reduced. I continued taking it every day. My next period, I had zero pain. I was completely shocked at how well it had worked. I'd been taking it pretty much every day for 4 years now, and I'm often caught off guard as I have no pain when my period's on its way. It's also helped me be a bit more patient, and it's reduced my feelings of stress. Great. I would 100% recommend this to everyone. You can also get, You can also get tampons that have CBD in them, as well as lotions and bath salts, although I haven't used these, so I can't say how well they work. Okay, Meghan Markle. Here's the company I found. So this is not an ad. Whoa. So it's called Our, like ours, belonging to us, ourremedy.co.uk. And the CBD tampons are from a company called yourday.com. I actually think I did an ad for them a few years back. yourdaye.com. I'm going to buy some of these now. Thanks, Amber. Woo. Women are so much more powerful just talking to each other about things because they won't do studies on us. So we don't really have like research to fall back on for that reason. I've got another reply to the pill. I have a 12-year-old daughter who's had her period since she was 9. She started out with things as you'd expect, first few cycles, smidge irregular, bit of pain, nothing serious. However, for about the past year, her periods have been so painful that she vomits. It causes her to pass out. The periods were lasting 2 weeks, and we've had many school days missed. I'm 40, so when I scheduled an appointment with the doctor, I expected the same suggestion of the pill that I was offered when I was 14 before my acne, or my sister as a teenager because of her period pain. But to my surprise, the doctor's first suggestion was mefenamic acid. I've never heard of it before, but it was described as an anti-inflammatory drug often prescribed for people with endometriosis. And this is exactly what my adolescent female member is now taking, in addition to an anti-spasmodic drug that starts with a B. But I'm sure if you just search, hang on, I'm going to try to find it for you. Okay, there are so many anti-spasmodic drugs listed here, but the one that my adolescent female family member is taking is called hycosine butylbromide. Ooh, it says it's an anti-muscarinic drug that can cause adverse effects. Well, great. Everything causes adverse effects, but basically it stops the smooth muscle from contracting, which is what cramps are. So, and that's what also causes certain people to vomit. Well, they vomit from pain, but it also contracts your intestines and your bowel. Like it contracts any smooth muscle. So 2 of those 4 times a day, and then 1 of this anti-inflammatory that you're talking about. It has changed our life, you say. My daughter has taken it for her past 6 cycles and noticed a difference straight away. The symptoms have improved with every cycle, meaning today she barely notices she's even started her cycle due to lack of pain. Her cycles are a normal length and we aren't missing school. We didn't have to resort to hormones, although if that's something that feels necessary another time, I'm willing to discuss it with my daughter. Great. And this is all I'm asking. Another message about the pill. My boyfriend at the time's stepmom was a GP. This is, a woman who spent 10 years on hormonal contraception from age 14. When my boyfriend's mom found out we were having sex, she recommended I get the implant immediately. I did because I blindly trusted her judgment, tale as old as time, as a medical professional. I then moved between the implant, the mini pill, the depot shot until I was 24, and that's when I decided to move to non-hormonal contraception, the copper coil. I almost immediately became a different person. I felt that I knew who I was for the first time. This could be a combination of the hormones and my frontal lobe development, but I no longer had bouts of anger, crying, etc. I no longer needed the antidepressants I was taking. I feel as though I know myself more, and importantly, I know my cycle. I know the week before my period, I'm going to be a little moody, a little hungry. I have breakouts. I do burst into tears. I can recognize the reasoning and the spikes and drops in estrogen and progesterone. I think the number of women my age, 28, who have autoimmune diseases such as POTS and celiac, who recognize that they were put on the contraception pill very young, is staggering. I have celiac, diagnosed 4 years after getting my implant, but nobody else in my family does, which you well know is very rare, and I'm not ignorant to the fact that I may have damaged my body as it developed using synthetic hormones. From my personal experience, keep your family member away from it if you can. Keep a very close eye on her symptoms for any gynecological issues in the future. But in the meantime, manage pain and spasms with the aforementioned drugs. Thank you. I will personally say from my own experience, I had the copper coil for a number of years. I got that coil quick. I had one child with someone who, I have managed that amazingly. It could have gone a very different way. I'm so happy not to be with him anymore. And I just saw a post about, have you guys seen the documentary on Netflix about Gabby Petito and how she was murdered by her boyfriend? This very articulate young woman was like, don't date losers. Like, statistically, and she works with victims or survivors of domestic violence, and she goes, you give a guy a chance, like you date the loser, and he is not guaranteed, but most likely to be controlling, emotionally abusive, physically abusive, or indeed end up killing you. Like he has insecurity, especially some of the red flags were if they subscribe to like patriarchal ideals of society, like all that Andrew Tate stuff, if they love that stuff, but if they don't fulfill those standards, do you know what I mean? If they're not like muscular, if they're not good looking, if they're not rich, if they are not powerful, but they value those things for a man, then they have this whole insecurity thing. And then if they watch you do well, or they watch you ascend, or they think you're going to leave them, they'll start being mean to you, knocking your self-confidence, doing different things like that. Red flag, run. And if they speak disparagingly about women from their past, like if they talk badly about women in general, if you see them talking badly about women in the news, if you get the sense that they kind of hate women, run. And I had a few partners who really displayed all of these red flags. I don't know what attracted to me about them, but I think that's got to do with my autoimmune disease too. I hope to unpack the trauma of all of that one day because I do think that my whole way of being like, move forward, don't react, don't let anything affect you, don't react, that has served me so well in my life, but who knows if it's living somewhere in my cough. But anyway, after him, I got on the coil. I was like, I am not having another unhinged person's baby. And so I was on the copper coil for a long, long time. And it has its pitfalls as well. Like, it's great that it's not hormonal, but my periods were longer. I had like 9-day periods on the copper coil. And I did find that my periods were more painful. And then when I got that taken out, all my symptoms went away. So unfortunately, like, there is no perfect contraceptive answer for everyone yet. I mean, Men could just use condoms. That would be great. A few more recommended this mefenamic acid, which is the anti-inflammatory drug. That is MEFENAMIC. And my adolescent female family member takes 500 milligrams, I believe 3 times a day. Another pill email. Katherine, I read the following book a few years ago. It blew my mind. From links to mental and physical health to possibly influencing the type of partner we are attracted to. But more funding is obviously needed for women's research so they can find enough evidence, whether that evidence is for or against the contraceptive pill. It is called How the Pill Changes Everything, Your Brain on Birth Control. I have purchased this book. I haven't started listening to it yet. One that my mother recommended was The Vagina Bible by Jen Gunter, whom my mother loves. And there was another good one too, but start with these two. All right. Thank you a journalist. I'm going to read this one too. Oh, no. I don't want to do a feature in The Guardian, but thank you. Okay. Every time a journalist's like, do you want to talk in The Guardian about the pill? I don't. I want to stay away from officially talking about women's issues as much as I can because somehow it just makes me a target. I don't know why. I just like to talk about it here. This is your resource for all thoughts. TV's Katherine Ryan. Thank you so much to all of you for reaching out about this because it makes me feel like less of a moon goddess idiot. Because this doctor, she didn't appreciate that I questioned her. She wasn't mean about it, but she was like, you have very little evidence, babe. And she's right. I'm sorry, I don't have the evidence. All women's evidence seems to be anecdotal, and that is really annoying for me and for you. Do you guys know Casey Anthony? She's kind of made a resurgence after being exonerated for the murder of her young daughter. And when I see anything Casey Anthony related on TikTok, in documentaries, coming up on my Instagram reels, on social media, I scroll right on by because officially she was not found guilty of this murder, but I feel like a mother who does not report the disappearance of her, I think, 6-year-old for 31 days is no mother that I want to fuck with. But now she's giving legal advice on TikTok. So literally watch your back, listeners of Telling Everybody Everything. There is a new high-profile advice guru hitting the airwaves, and she wants to hear from you. Apparently, Casey Anthony, who is the Tonya Harding of alleged infanticide, has started a legal advice TikTok, and she might have a thing or two to teach you in that department at least. For the uninitiated, Casey Anthony was found not guilty of murdering her infant daughter, Kaylee, in 2011 in a verdict many considered to be a perversion of justice on the same scale of O.J. Simpson's acquittal. She was, however, convicted of lying to police, and for that, she was sentenced to 4 years in prison. Says Casey, I've been in the legal field since 2011, and in this capacity, I feel like it's necessary, if I'm going to continue to operate appropriately as a legal advocate, that I start to advocate for myself and also advocate for my daughter, she said, inviting people with problems to email her. Can you imagine being someone whose daughter disappears, and let's just give her the benefit of the doubt, and that's all she knew, and you just kind of hope and pray that she returns for 31 days before calling the police. And then you're like, oh, that ended badly. My daughter was actually murdered. A child's life was taken. But I've bounced back, and now I'm going to help other people not get wrongly convicted of their own daughter's murder. Well, no one else is losing their daughter and not calling the police for 31 days, Casey Anthony. We're good. What does she mean, advocate for my daughter? Like, either justice was done and the correct person was convicted of your daughter's murder, or she needs an advocate for what? Who's still at large? I think this woman's telling on herself. All right, I couldn't help myself. What the fuck is wrong with this lady? So it wasn't even Casey who called the police. Her mother made a 911 call to the police who said she hadn't seen her grandchild for 31 days. And she told the dispatchers that her daughter, Casey, the woman whose child went missing, had given varied explanations as to where the little girl was before eventually confessing, oh, I haven't seen her in weeks. So then Casey herself, the mother who was exonerated but who spent 4 years in jail for lying, Casey Anthony called police and falsely told a dispatcher that Kaylee had been kidnapped by a nanny, and then she was charged with first-degree murder. Oh my God. So, like I can't even read stuff like this. So who was convicted then? No one was convicted, I guess. All right. So this little girl just went missing and died in very violent circumstances, and that's fine. All right. Well, I hope that Casey Anthony is so good at giving legal advice that she gets super famous. People get a renewed interest into what the hell happened here. New evidence comes out, and maybe she will assist in her own conviction. Oh, but double jeopardy. Can you not? You can't be convicted for something if you've already been acquitted for it. But maybe she could be charged with a different degree. I just feel like there's no way this woman didn't do it. And women who kill, like it's very rare, but they're very mentally disturbed. So like, what is wrong with this woman? And what does she do now? She just like on the streets, on TikTok. Okay, more than a decade after her acquittal, she posted her first video just this month with the announcement that she would be a legal advocate and researcher. Great for her. And where's she living? In September, it was reported that she'd been dating Tyson Ray Rhodes, a married father of 2 adult sons, but then they called it quits in November. She grew tired of the relationship, friends said. She gets bored easily. It was very exciting when he was married because he was forbidden fruit, but once she had him, there was nowhere to go. This woman's mental. She moved to Tennessee to be with him. She was working as a legal assistant and filed paperwork in 2020 to launch her own private investigative firm. She tried to work as a photographer, but she was harassed online. And she was asked in an interview if she would have more children. And she said no. She said, if I'd be dumb enough to bring another kid into this world, knowing that there'd be a potential for some little snot-nosed kid to say something mean to my kid, I don't think I could live with that. What exactly does that mean? She thinks that if she had more kids, then her kids would be bullied by other kids because they had a dead sister? Or because, I don't think so. Like, does she not know what 2025 looks like? The other kids at school would be like, do you want to sleep over at my house till the end of time? Do you need a safe space? Is your mother coming to my birthday party because I would like to see the age of 4, please? Ugh, hate stories like that. In very sad news, Dolly Parton's elusive hubby has died. Jolene is sitting somewhere flicking her geriatric bean now because she never ended up getting Dolly's man. Carl Dean, the elusive husband of 6 decades to global icon Dolly Parton, passed away over 2 weekends ago at the young age of 82. Dolly's rugged, handsome, Southern husband, famously one half of the subject of her infamous banger, Jolene, about a red-headed woman who worked at their local bank as a cashier. He would pay his stubs in, and she would cash them with a little too much vigor, according to Dolly Parton. He's long been a subject of fan fascination since the beginning of Dolly's career, never attending events and rarely seen in photographs. Dolly has always maintained that their mutual agreement was that he stayed out of the limelight, and that's what helped their relationship to stay together. Legend had it that they met at a laundromat almost immediately after Dolly's arrival in Nashville at age 18, and the 6'2" Dean was driving by and called out to the 5' Parton, "You're gonna get sunburn out here, little lady." Once their chatting got underway in earnest, Dolly said, "I was surprised and delighted that while he talked to me, he looked at my face, a rare thing for me. He seemed to be genuinely interested in finding out who I was and what I was about." In an interview with E! Last spring, Dolly Parton said, "It's important to have someone there in your corner and you know they'll love you for just who you are. There's a great comfort in knowing that someone loves you for exactly who you are because he fell in love with me before I became a star." All right, but crucially, he dealt with you being a star very well. I mean, presumably presuming this man was faithful and loyal and everything like she says he was, because Dolly Parton is so wonderful and so nice, it is possible. She's also just like such an ally and a progressive person. It is entirely possible that all that time he was out of the limelight because he had some like issues. He could have been an absolute bastard or an alcoholic or cheating, or they could have had an open relationship that whole time. Like, we don't know. This is the beauty of leaving your significant other behind closed doors. And she's very smart to have done that, because then the press can't get to you. And I don't know how he would have dealt with her being away all the time. And I don't mean that he shouldn't have dealt with it well, but it's just statistically rare for a man who's 82 now, well, dead now, but was recently 82. So then he was born when? Like in the 40s? Okay. For him to be totally comfortable having his wife sexualized, number one, and like one of the most famous people on the entire planet. Not a lot of Southern, like you add so many details. It is rare for a Southern gentleman born in the 40s just to be like, yeah, you go out with your big tits and your amazing voice and your adoring fans and you just tour and you travel and you do what you want and you be hugely famous and mega rich and beloved and I'll just be cool with it. Like, there's only him and Stedman, Oprah's man, and kind of Corey Gamble, Kris Jenner's man. But then there have been rumors about Corey Gamble being, I mean, there are loads of rumors about him being like a Fed, and him being a cheater. Like, who knows? But maybe this is just the new kind of man. We're hearing about them more and more because there are more wildly successful women. And Bobby seems to be this way, but he's not really out of the spotlight. He comes to the red carpet things and he's on the reality show, and sometimes he pops up on the podcast. But he certainly like doesn't have a problem with me being like well known, and like the way I dress never bothers him and what I say never bothers him. So maybe there are just guys like that. Exactly 4 guys like that worldwide. Because even Martha Stewart's husband cheated on her, and then she cheated on him back, which was fab. I liked Meghan Markle. I was rooting for Meghan Markle. I really, and several things can be true at once. I think a lot of the British viewing public do have internalized racism that they're not even aware of. This is a very racistly structured country. I mean, colonialism is the most racist thing ever. We have a royal family in a palace. We speak about like working class. Like, we don't even have words like that in Canada. You talk all the time about people coming from other countries as less than human. Words like cockroach and vermin have been thrown around in the press. You know, not all racism looks the way you think it's going to look. There is an unconscious bias in this country and in most countries, really, that a lot of people don't even realize that they have. So, and I think what feels gaslighting for someone like Meghan Markle, whose father is black, or is her mother black? Oh, her mother's black. I'm sorry. The woman I like, her father's a piece of shit. But her mother is black and her father is this guy who talks to the Daily Mail and is weird and is white. When she says, oh, I feel that I was victimized by institutionalized racism, then you have to believe her. Like, that is her experience. And it's really weird for white people to be like, no, you weren't. We're not racist. We just don't like you. It must feel incredibly gaslighting as a woman of like mixed ethnicity to be told, no, it's not racism. You're wrong. Like, yes, of course. So I think this country does have institutionalized racism, yes, and unconscious bias, yes. Not every single person, but a great many, yes. And to be someone with a mother who's black entering the royal family, I'm sure they had some feelings about that because that's the royal family. In addition to that, though, she is very Hollywood, even for me, and I don't like that in people. I see now, and maybe it's just the project she's choosing. It does feel like she has lied about whether she knew who Prince Harry was, and these like details about her childhood change and don't add up. Like she said on her new Netflix show that they ate TV dinners growing up, but then in an old interview, she's like, we would eat farm fresh, just little things. Her whole act just seems like very manicured and very forced, and I was rooting for her. So I think I've known a lot of Hollywood people. They're not bad people. I certainly don't think she's a bad person, but I think, she likes cozying up to celebrities, and she wants the $1 million deal, or $100 million deal like anyone would. And she likes the fact that she's married to a prince, of course. But I would rather someone lean into that and be like, oh my God, I used to be on Suits and now I'm married to a fucking prince. I would rather that than this act of oh, I'm just so humble. So I don't know if you guys are watching this flower sprinkles Netflix show that she's got, but it's really revving people up. So Netflix continues to try to make Meghan Sussex, formerly Meghan Markle, and technically Meghan Mountbatten, happen, with her latest peek behind the royal adjacent curtain entitled With Love, Meghan. Described as part Martha Stewart, part Ina Garten, part Alison Roman, part totally unnecessary, the 8-episode lifestyle show is a follow-up to her decidedly unmoving podcast and docuseries that landed with respective thuds, in which the rogue Duchess espouses things as inaccessible as sourcing beeswax from your local beekeeper to as basic as arranging fruit in a rainbow order. But one culinary embellishment that is turning heads is Meg's penchant for sprinkling, hopefully, edible flower petals on any dish that she thinks could use a pop of whimsy. Cake, donuts, crudité platters, rainbow fruit salad, frittata, and so on. These are known as flower sprinkles. And I've seen this. I have seen it from chefs. They like to put wild garlic or flowers or something on a meal, and I'm not about it. And I also don't think it constitutes an entire cooking show. People are hate watching it though. Who knows what Netflix are doing? They are smart. People are tuned in, whether they love something or hate something, whatever keeps them watching more episodes, and they're posting loads about it online. If this was Netflix's intention to be let's throw Meghan under the bus, personally, where even the people who really liked her are sort of turning, not against her, but she just doesn't seem to be the kind of gal that I would want to be friends with. It's too manicured. It's too beige. And this clip that's going around where Mindy Kaling is in her kitchen, and Mindy's like, oh, who would have thought that Meghan Markle eats at Jack in the Box? And she's like, I am Sussex now. My last name is Sussex, and it feels so wonderful to have the same last name as the royal family. I mean, my children. I don't even think, think less. Honestly, I've said it. I think less of women who change their name anyway to match their husband's name, unless you have had a chat about it, unless you have approached that decision with equality and been like, my dad was an abusive alcoholic. What was your dad's last name? Okay, let's take that one. But just this assumption, it goes back to just not questioning things, not questioning the way things are done. We shall take your last name. You know how many of my girlfriends had cool last names and they're married to guys with shit last names, and now that's their last name and their kid's last name? You couldn't have workshop it a bit. But a lot of the times, not just the man would have refused to take the woman's name, but the entire woman's family would have been like, what? What do you mean you're not taking his name? I hate it. I don't know why. I just think it's something as important as your name and your children's name, at the very least, deserves a discussion. It should not just be the given thing that you take the husband's name. In the case of Sussex, which do we even know Harry's last name is Sussex? Fine, if you want to be Meghan Sussex. But then, let's be honest about why you're choosing that. Don't be like, I had no idea who he was. I've never even been to Sussex. It's because it's the way to hang on to the Duchess of Sussex. Anyway, this evening, Bobby and I are going on a little date. We are going to the screening of Last One Laughing for Amazon Prime. You might have seen the Irish one on Amazon Prime, hosted by Graham Norton and a bunch of Irish comedians. I don't know the exact format. Basically, I think the comedians aren't allowed to laugh, but they do a bunch of things that are funny. And then I think one of them has a pass and they are allowed to laugh. I didn't get to see the Irish one, but I'm so looking forward to the British one because guess who is on it? And I don't know how many of these people are coming to the screening, but if they all show up, it's going to be the best night of my life. Like, I don't even want to do anything or go anywhere if it's not with comedians. And because all of us are somewhat successful now, like, sorry to say, I just did 3 sold out shows at the Palladium. Thank you if you came. If you want to come again, I'm there for 3 more days in April. And if you can't be at those, I'm there for 3 more days in May. But I don't have an open act. I don't work with my friends anymore because they're on tour as well. So get a load of this lineup. It is hosted by Jimmy fucking Carr. And he's got to be there tonight. I can't wait to see Jimmy. I feel emotional about it, like even going. Like if 10% of these people are here, I'm going to have a great night. Sarah Pascoe. Okay, there are a lot of women, but they're all blonde apart from Judy Love, which I thought was a bit weird. Sarah Pascoe, blonde. Roisin Kennedy, blonde. Daisy May Cooper, blonde. Harriet Kemsley, blonde. Lou Sanders, blonde. Judy Love, black woman. Sometimes blonde. Have I ever seen Judy Love in a blonde style? Don't know. But anyway, blonde or not blonde, these are the best female comedians in the world. Like, I cannot wait to see them. So, like, I'm naming the ladies first, not to differentiate them from the boys, but I'm just always excited to be around, like, the women in my industry. And the boys, get a load of this. Bob Mortimer. How funny is Bob Mortimer going to be on it? Rob Beckett, with whom I've become very close this year, because we have a WhatsApp group where we're sort of, like, bullying someone. Richard Ayoade, Joe Wilkinson, Joe Lycett. Did you hear what I said? Joe Wilkinson, Joe Lycett, Richard Ayoade, Sarah Pascoe, Daisy May Cooper, Roisin Kennedy, Rob Beckett, Harriet Kemsley, Judy Love, Lou Sanders, Bob Mortimer, hosted by Jimmy Carr. Who put this lineup together, Amazon Prime? Like, I might have died and gone to heaven tonight.